Okay, guys, here I am back with all of you. Actually recording the video that I was supposed to record today, which I am going to be discussing more in depth the New England colonies with you guys. So if you watched my previous video on the Southern colonies, you'll know why it took me so long to go ahead and finally do this video for you. But now that I have your attention, let's go ahead and discuss New England and learn about the craziness that was going on with Puritan Massachusetts. So, alright, now for some historical context, let's go ahead and talk about the Southern colonies. So remember, the Southern colonies were established, well, rather the colony of Jamestown was established before any other colony in New England. Jamestown was the first successful English colony, established in 1607, and after some hellacious years in the beginning, and enduring not only, poisoning yourself with your own bad drinking water, but the starving time and surviving that big mess, Jamestown finally caught wind of some financial, fortunes that was severely lacking, and got into the cash crop business with at first tobacco, and then later on other cash crops would pop up all through southern colonies, including rice, indigo, and cotton. So because of this push for agriculture, due in part because of their geography, they had good soil, good climate, so cash crops is kind of the way to go for them. Plus, because of their economic system, cash crops are going to be labor extensive. There's going to be a need for indentured servants, and then finally for slaves. With this agrarian society in which, everybody's doing agriculture, there's going to be less of an emphasis on an urban setting, so there's going to be less, towns and stuff in the southern colonies, and more of a rural setting. Because of this disunity amongst the southern colonies, and not really this, sense of community with them, since they're all kind of living separate, there's also not going to be a big push for religion with the southern colonies, and there's also not going to be a very big push for education as well. So we'll keep further discussing the southern colonies because honestly, guys, the AP test likes to have you guys compare and contrast the southern colonies to New England. And like we had said last time, we're not going to concentrate on all the colonies in this colonial region. We're only going to bring up two today, which is going to be Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But mainly, most of the time today, we're going to be talking about Massachusetts. Alright, so a little bit about the other colonies that we see in New England. Connecticut will have a governing document called the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. So there's going to be a lot of colonial self-rule in New England. However, it's going to be kind of more localized with local town hall meetings and such, because New England, as we'll find out, is more of a community-based society. New Hampshire, not much going on there. Just pretty much following the Puritan path of Massachusetts. Rhode Island, we will explain their findings, their foundations, as we talk more about Roger Williams and what ends up happening to him. And finally, Massachusetts, we're going to talk about their beginnings and pretty much why they're indicative of the rest of the New England colonies. Why what happens in Massachusetts is pretty much what goes on everywhere else. So, first up, we've got the Pilgrims. And the Pilgrims are going to settle in Plymouth. So, at first, guys, the Pilgrims, they came from England, okay? They were persecuted in England for their beliefs because these guys are known as separatists. They didn't agree with what the Anglican Church was doing at the time, and they decided it was too corrupt and stuff, and instead of fixing it, they wanted to go ahead and just start their own thing, start their own religion. So they left to Holland, and in Holland, I'm not sure if they were persecuted again. They may have been. So then they go ahead and set up their voyage to the New World because here they feel they can practice their religious freedom and be free from like any persecution. So the Pilgrims are going to try to, at first, they're aiming to go to Jamestown, but these guys are blown off course and they ended up landing in Plymouth. So how these guys travel is going to be through the Mayflower. And you guys kind of remember the stories from like elementary school. Oh yeah, the Mayflower, that's the ship the Pilgrims came on. Okay guys, here we go. What you guys learned in elementary was cute and all, but Pilgrims be a bit different than what you guys remember from, you know, earlier on in your childhood education. So Pilgrims are going to be kind of harsh, not going to lie. But at first, Pilgrims, you know, they get blown off course. They land here in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and they are going to be kind of ill-suited for the area because, I mean, they're thinking they're going to be in the mild climate of, well, Virginia, and they're in cold Massachusetts, okay? So let's talk a little bit about like the geography and climate. Massachusetts, cold, harsh winters, right? Short growing seasons, and the soil itself is not going to be very good to farm on. So Massachusetts and New England in general are going to have to depend on different things to do for money. So just throwing that disclaimer out here. We'll touch more about it later. But anyways, when they land in Plymouth, they're going to have a very hard time. It's going to be a harsh winter. Disease is going to kill a lot of them. But in the spring, the Wampanoags, which is the tribe of the area, they're pretty friendly with them. And they help them adapt and survive to the surroundings. So the Pilgrims are pretty grateful with them. They're going to celebrate the first Thanksgiving with the Wampanoag tribe. And our first Thanksgiving is kind of different. I mean, yeah, we got turkey. We got like sweet potatoes. We've got, you know, pretty much the foods of the New World, like corn and squash and like pumpkins. We got all that. But what we also don't really realize is that Plymouth is along the coast, so we're going to have like lobster and crab and stuff too. So it's going to be like this weird kind of like traditional Thanksgiving feast that we know of, and seafood. So all that is going to be part of the original Thanksgiving feast. I don't know about you guys, but having lobster Thanksgiving, hell to the yes. I'm all about that. Let's bring back the traditional Thanksgiving. But anyways, so this Thanksgiving amongst the Wampanoags and the Pilgrims will be short-lived. We'll find out that the Pilgrims are going to be a bit forceful with the native populations. Let's just say that. So anyways, in 1691, Plymouth is absorbed into the larger Massachusetts Bay Colony. And so that's why on the chart that we saw in the beginning, we just listed Massachusetts because, yeah, eventually it's just going to be Massachusetts Bay. That's it. So a little bit more about Pilgrims before we go with them. The Pilgrims are going to have their own governing document as well, which is known as the Mayflower Compact. And these guys are going to decide on board the Mayflower, hey, let's agree to like follow the law. Let's agree to follow the rules that are established here in the New World. So in essence, they're setting up their own like social contract in a way, and essentially the people are consenting to be governed, which is one of our major principles that we see in our future governing documents like, the Constitution, all right? So that's why we kind of bring up the Mayflower Compact with this, because we do get those early principles of government as we see here. So, yeah, in case you guys are wondering what the original Mayflower Compact looks like, there it is. And you can see it in print right here, along with the printed names of the men on board the Mayflower who signed this in 1620. So, Feel free to read it. I'm not going to read it right now. No thanks. Old English like that? It's kind of weird. Just saying. So, let's go ahead and talk about the Puritans. The Puritans are really the group to pay attention to when we talk about New England, because these guys are pretty much going to run the show. Now, they too have a problem with the Anglican Church. However, they don't go as like hardcore as the Pilgrims do and say, hey, screw this, let's just break away and do our own thing and be separatists. No, these guys are going to complain about the system and try to reform it. They're known as dissenters. So they're still members of the Church of England, but yeah, they're going to complain a lot. So Puritans are a unique breed. I mean, these guys are, how can I say this? These guys want to purify the Anglican Church and purify, well, everything. These guys are super into church, super into the Bible. I mean, bro, they are like church is life for the Puritans. And what they want to do here in the New World is basically be the model Puritan church for everybody. I mean, they want perfection in that area. And they also want perfection amongst their colony. I mean, here we go with this quote from John Winthrop. A city upon a hill, the eyes of all people are on us. What he's implying with this is basically saying, hey, Puritans won't be freaking perfect. They want every colony to look up at them and be like, yeah, Massachusetts Bay. Ooh, Boston. Like, pretty much, you know, these guys just strive for perfection. And it's going to lead to very unique choices that they make in the colony. These guys are super rigid and strict and just like set in their ways. I mean, dude, they do not like it when people go against them. So, and they didn't believe all would be equal in their society, even though they're super church people. That's another thing about the Puritans that I just can't with. These guys are like so contradictory with like everything. But hey, let's go ahead and learn more about these Puritans, because maybe then we could explain crazy ass things going on like Salem. So, and that's the goal, honestly. I want to portray Puritan society as much as possible to you guys. So yeah, we can understand why they did the crazy things they did sometimes, and what sort of goals that they go towards in the future. So Winthrop is also going to go on to say that God had decreed that some must be rich, some must be poor, some high and eminent in power and dignity, others common and in subjugation. So again, I mean, Puritans, they won't be perfect, but their society is far from perfect. So okay, let's go ahead and talk about Puritan democracy, another contradiction. All right, these guys don't want to seek a democratic colony, but they're going to extend more political power out to their colonies than anywhere else in the New World at that time. I mean, even the southern colonies have already restricted voting to property holders. Puritans are going to extend voting to all adult male church members. Well, white adult male church members. Okay, that's implied. So, in essence, what they're extending the right to vote to is 40% of their colonial inhabitants, which after Virginia's like property restrictions, I mean, that's an even higher percentage than Virginia, who is like way more chill in their society and how they view religion and stuff. I mean, like I said, Puritans be very contradictory with some things. Like, you're just like, what? Yeah, let's continue. There's more. So, Puritans are super into church. Like, church is life. Church influences everything for them. I mean, even the laws that they have. Church is going to also be supported by public tax money. Church membership is mandated, well, church attendance is mandated by law. Puritan laws are going to be very influenced by their religion. I mean, we're going to punish different sins like drunkenness, theft, and idleness. If you guys didn't know what idleness is, it's basically they're punishing you for being lazy. Oh yeah, another thing I left off on here, guys. If you talked back to your parents, it could be punishable by death. Yeah. Puritans. So even though, like, they're super influenced by their religion, they still have this mini separation of church and state going on. And here's how. They forbid Puritan ministers from holding office or for having any political power. Well, like we said before, even though they can't hold office or have any political power, they sure as hell are influencing stuff. So, again, contradictory. Plus, this whole like notion of like striving for perfection and such is going to get Puritans to work extremely hard. I mean, that's why we call it the Puritan work ethic. I mean, these guys are freaking hard workers. They want everything perfect. And so part of the reason why they want everything perfect and want to be this model society is because they feel that through good faith and good works and such, it will help lead to their salvation. Because in essence, these guys honestly believe in such things like Calvinism, which really you are predestined to be saved or damned. And to the Puritans, they feel like by doing all these things that in their eyes they see as good will help lead them to this salvation, because to them, I mean, they know that they're saved by having good favor, like good luck and such things like that. But if they're not part of the lucky ones, right, they need to work extra hard for their salvation, and thus it kind of lends itself into their personality of being perfectionists. So go figure. Now, since they're working so hard to have this model society, when people go against what they have to say or go against any sort of authority amongst church leaders or question any policies in Massachusetts Bay, these people are going to get banished. So this is what happens with Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson. They both question the authority and, well, church leadership in Massachusetts Bay, and they are both banished on 2 separate occasions. All right, they're both going to flee down south. Roger Williams is going to establish the colony of Providence, which will end up becoming Rhode Island. Anne Hutchinson will make it to Portsmouth, but she dies in the wilderness. So, yeah, this is why I bring up Rhode Island, though. Rhode Island is going to be founded on principles exactly opposite to what Massachusetts Bay does. Because, hey, Roger Williams, I mean, was banished for expressing his beliefs. And so that's why Rhode Island is going to be the black sheep of New England. These guys are going to be totally different with their religious views and how they establish, you know, their political structure to reflect that. So Rhode Island is going to be your safe haven in New England if you want to practice true religious freedom. So that's kind of an interesting twist, right? I mean, that's Rhode Island for you guys. Now, because these people are super into church, like we said, they're going to reflect more of like what the Spanish did when it comes to treatment of Native Americans than what the French did. So, a lot of the conflicts in general with Native Americans are going to be over land, okay? The colonists are expanding into their area. I mean, it makes sense. They're going to fight over land holdings. But what's also going to happen is that they're going to also clash over religion. And kind of like how the Spanish were forcing their native populations to learn their religion and forcing harsh treatment on them and seeing them as inferior and such. That's kind of like what the Puritans and Pilgrims will do to the native populations. And when there are clashes, there are very bloody clashes on both sides. So both sides are going to attack each other continuously throughout this colonial time period. One such instance of an attack happens when the Pilgrims had destroyed Pequot's fort that was located near Stonington, Connecticut. So what had happened in this is that 700 people are going to die in a single hour with this attack. Here's why this is crazy. This is pre like automatic weapons. This is pre like, you know, any sort of like modern weapons that we have now where you probably could kill 700 people in an hour. This is like you're loading up your musket one by one, or you're just coming out swinging with your hatchet or like knife or something. Okay? They killed 700 in an hour. Whoa, that is a literal overkill. Just saying. And those are Pilgrims, guys. Same Thanksgiving Pilgrims. Well, rather it's like 20 years later, but still. I mean, yeah, shocking. So, more interactions with the Native Americans. We've got King Philip's War. This happens a little later. This happens in 1675, 1676. So, of course, again, the big conflict is expanding into native territory. Plus, the Puritans are enforcing their harsh rules on them, like forbidding the native populations to hunt and fish on the Sabbath. They're forcing the native populations to work on their land. Also, when it came to Chief Metacom, which they commonly referred to him as King Philip, they forced him to sign a document stating that no native lands could be sold without the consent of the colonial court. Mind you, this guy can't read or write English. They're having him sign over his rights like that. Plus, they pass even more restrictive laws on Native Americans. And for the straw that finally broke the camel's back, Puritans are going to execute 3 Native Americans on suspicion that they killed an informant. So, this kickstarts King Philip's War. And so fighting occurs. I mean, hardcore fighting. Okay? There's going to be numerous Native American settlements attacked, numerous colonial villages attacked. I mean, really, King Philip is going to forge alliances with other native tribes, and it's kind of like this combined effort to fight against the Puritans. So, colonists are going to respond to native attacks by killing all Native Americans they come across, even the friendly ones, during King Philip's War. And when all is said and done, 52 colonial villages are attacked, 16 of them destroyed. And here's an interesting statistic for you guys. 10% of colonial men of military age in New England were killed in this 1 year during King Philip's War. If we were to look at this proportionately, okay, proportionate with the population, and we're comparing it to the American Revolution, proportionately more people died in King Philip's War than the American Revolution. And if we're to go a step above to our bloodiest conflict we've had in American history, the Civil War, more people proportionately died during King Philip's War than in the Civil War. That just shows the sheer amount of bloodshed going on in King Philip's War. And to add with the gruesomeness of this war, King Philip himself, Metacom, dies in battle. His wife and children are sold into slavery by the Puritans, and his head is decapitated off his corpse and is displayed in Plymouth for 20 years after his death. What the hell? Puritans, I mean, for super church people, you guys are really, really violent. Same with you, Pilgrims. I'm looking at you too. Whoa. I mean, yeah. That definitely puts a different spin on things, doesn't it, guys? So, that's their treatment of native populations. Let's go ahead and talk about what happens when the Crown disagrees with New England. So we find that out with the Dominion of New England. So James II is now in charge. He's Catholic. He decides to merge together the New England colonies to create this bigger colonial area called the Dominion of New England. And this is going to occur for like 3 years, okay, from 1686 to 1689. So he puts his old friend, Sir Edmund Andros, in charge. And Sir Edmund Andros does so many things to anger New England colonists. For one, he questions the validity of the Puritan religion. For two, he asserts the Navigation Acts, which, here's the thing, guys, about Puritans. A lot of them also make their money off of trade because they're along the coast. A good chunk of them. I mean, big cities like Boston are already in existence and they trade. So the Navigation Act definitely hurts their trade. And smugglers are punished, which again hurts the economy of places like Boston because a lot of people did smuggle back in the day. He's also going to outlaw the local assemblies, so town hall meetings can't happen anymore. And he's going to force taxes on the colonists without their consent. So really, you guys, New England hates this dude. Hates him. So, but he's got friends in high places, right? I mean, he's friends with King James II. So colonists in Massachusetts are going to send a minister, his name is Increase Mather, to England to try to negotiate things with James II and have Sir Edmund Andros like recalled. But things are kind of going on in England that's going to work in the Puritan favor, because really Parliament is instating new leadership. They have placed on the throne Mary and William of Orange. So this so happens to be the Glorious Revolution. William and Mary of Orange are Protestant. So James II has to flee the country now, and England is now restored to Protestant rule. So with that said, the Dominion of New England is going to collapse. Sir Edmund Andros no longer has his friend in high places, so the colonists in Massachusetts are going to revolt against him. Edmund Andros has to flee for his life, dressed up as a woman, trying to escape. But he is captured because his army boots are kind of peeking out under his dress. I swear, guys, history sometimes. Like, really, we be doing this. So he's sent back to England. Surprisingly, they don't like execute him, but he's sent back to England. And later he's going to serve as governor of Virginia, Maryland, and Guernsey. So, but anyways, Parliament is going to go ahead and restore the colonial charters of, the New England colonies. But with Massachusetts Bay, they say, hey guys, you got to be more tolerant of different religions. So they kind of slip in a little bit of that religious freedom in there. Now, and they have to have a colonial governor. So Massachusetts kind of almost got the win out of that, but in the end they had to concede to some things. So let's go ahead and talk about the role of religion here in New England. So we already know religion is life to them, right? It's like so important, and it influences like their politics, their livelihood, I mean, like everything, right? But it also influences education, because this is why there's more of an emphasis in education in New England, because after all, everybody's got to learn how to read and write to understand the Bible and to fully worship. So women themselves are also going to be educated in New England because of this purpose, meaning that women are going to enjoy more freedoms and rights in New England, where things are way more uptight than in the southern colonies. So again, guys, we'll get more into this after we discuss the middle colonies next time, but seriously, women are gonna have more rights here than the southern colonies. Weird. So speaking about teaching people how to read and write back in the days, this is the New England Primer. So I wanted to show this to you guys because this is how little kids would learn their ABCs and learn how to read. So check out A right here. In Adam's fall, we sinned all. I know it looks like an F, but it's really an S, guys. That's how they used to write it back in the day. Okay, check this one out. Let's see. Let's check out why youth do cheer, death may be near. I mean, these are the type of things that they are reading. Look at C. Christ crucified for sinners died. I mean, yeah, little kids are reading this to learn their ABCs, guys. What can we say? Puritans. So, alright, let's go ahead and talk about the larger colonial region now. So, there's going to be a lot of people going to New England. Like, a lot. They're motivated by the economic opportunities that they see here. Although New England, it does not do agriculture because, like we said, guys, they have long, cold winters, poor, rocky soil, and mountains. I mean, large-scale farming is not going to happen here. But other industries will spring up, like lumbering, fishing, shipbuilding, ironworks, wool production, and there are some small-scale factories that are established in New England because New England has a bunch of rivers, so you could, water power them. Plus, due to the natural geography where you've got inlets and harbors along the coast, this is going to make New England ripe for trade, and it's going to be a major industry. They're going to be a stop on the triangular trade. So, New England is going to have more towns and villages, like we said, and really, religion is such a huge part for them. And the sense of community that religion brings. So, like I said, guys, these guys are like the opposite of the southern colonies, for sure. So, a little bit more about the triangular trade. I mean, distillers are going to make rum. It's going to be picked up in these New England ships from the sugar grown in the West Indies. So, I mean, that sugar from the West Indies is going to turn into rum in New England, and it's going to be, like, shipped out, okay? So, and slaves, of course, coming from Africa going to the West Indies. Now, that is your greater triangular trade. So, other industries that would be major in New England, like I said, rum distilleries, also Navy stores. The British Navy is going to benefit from these Navy stores. And there's also whale hunting that goes on in this area as well. So, whale hunting is very profitable. Now that we know a little bit about the Puritans, guys, let's go ahead and talk about Salem. So, you notice this image right here? I mean, you could see the crazy train wreck that's going on in this trial right here. The judge is looking at this woman's back. This woman is like pointing to her back, being like, hey, look, this is where the devil scratched her. The accused over here are like, what the hell? We did not send the devil to scratch her. The other accusers are here lying on the ground fainting because they feel that the accused have sent their spirits to attack them. I mean, there's so much craziness going on in Salem, guys. So let's go ahead and figure out the bigger picture. So here's a little bit of a timeline for the trials. So winter of 1691 to early 1692, this is where we first see our evidence of so-called witchcraft, when several of these people are displaying abnormal behavior. They're acting a little weird, all right? By March of 1692, the first woman is arrested for witchcraft and jailed. And then in May of 1692, Governor Phipps is going to arrive and initiate the court, pretty much. So in summer of 1692, the trials are held, and all the accused are going to be convicted. they're going to, hang. I mean, one of which is going to be crushed to death by stones. So then 6 of the executed were men. Most of the rest were poor women past childbearing age. Included in those executed were a minister, a constable, who refused to arrest any more people suspected of being witches, and at least 3 wealthy people. So by January 1693, the trials are going to end with several Boston area ministers, including Increase Mather, when we talked about him before, appealing to Salem residents to go ahead and end these trials. So how did we get so out of hand like that? Well, there's several reasons for the mass hysteria involved in Salem. I mean, let's face it, Puritans are already on edge because they're Puritans. They're striving for perfection. Come on now. They're gonna snap. Plus, their strong beliefs kind of like contribute to this mass hysteria. They're like super into religion. I mean, they think any little thing is witchcraft. So some people feel that like hallucinogenic fungus and the consumption of it kind of made people, hallucinate and think that there was witchcraft kind of going on. Some people also feel that the children doing the accusing may have been abused and they were acting out. The frequent attacks by Native Americans also put people on edge, and as well, some historians hypothesize that the accused were largely, some of them were major landholders in Salem, and they felt that some of the children may have been accusing them to gain land opportunities for their families because they were coerced by their family members to do so. But anyways, in the case of Giles Corey, which is the one person who was stoned to death pretty much, pressed to death by stones, he's going to be a unique case in the Salem witch trials. So he's accused of being a wizard. His wife was accused of being a witch, and he kind of played a part in her accusal. But anyways, he did not enter a plea deal. So he didn't say he was innocent or guilty. He just basically didn't say anything. And that was his defense. So, he's going to be convicted of witchcraft. And due to refusing to plead anything, that's why there's a special punishment for him, which is, being pressed to death. So he's executed by having a whole bunch of big stones and everything placed on his chest. I mean, this guy is eyes and tongue are bulging out by the end. It's 2 long days where he goes through this. He curses Salem towards the end, and one of his replies to if he wishes to enter a plea is by saying, hey, more weight. So yeah, after 2 days, he succumbs to this terrible way to die. And mysteriously, the sheriffs of Salem have died with health ailments afterwards. Some people think it's the curse of Giles Corey. Whether or not that's true, guys, I don't know, but it's a lot of coincidence there. Just saying. The sheriffs didn't start surviving. Sheriffs had been dying weirdly due to cardiac arrest and stuff ever since then. But when they moved the sheriff's office in the 90s to a place outside of Salem, that's when the weirdness kind of stopped. So let's go ahead and talk about the defendants who were executed. You could see September 22nd was a freaking busy ass day, right? So, and these are the people who are executed, because this is the deal that they would give you. It's hey, confess that you're a witch and you live. Maintain your innocence and you get hanged. That's the kind of thing we got in Salem, guys. So one last thing about Salem before we go. The impact of the trials. So a lot of residents are going to up and leave Salem before all is said and done, I mean, they see the craziness going on, they're going to be like, see ya later. They left before they could be accused. The local economy is going to suffer because of this. I mean, no one's tending to the crops or the livestock. I mean, commerce is just going to suffer because businesses are not going to operate when there's the crazy trials and hangings going on. And remember, with such a conformist society, you don't want to stand out of the crowd because who knows? They'd accuse you of being witch next. So, the Puritans are going to lose a lot of their influence in New England because of the nature of these trials. And, yeah, this is pretty much Puritans losing their street cred because of the craziness in Salem. But it just goes to show you guys, like, how such an uptight society like the Puritans could, you know, get so out of control like this when they themselves are striving so hard for perfection that, yeah, it leads to craziness like Salem. So, okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed your delve into the different side of New England with the Puritans and the Pilgrims. We will talk about the Middle Colonies next time. And, all right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.